the United States is going to be, or at least who the folks that are going, the two final folks that are going to run. New Hampshire is a very important part of this process, and the candidates know it. They are here in New Hampshire. They are beating the bushes, pounding the pulpits, kissing the babies, and shaking the hands. And I shook a few hands myself this week. I went and saw Mitt Romney at the recreational center. As much as I hate to go into a building like the recreational center, which is funded through coercive means, it was the only place he was coming, so that's where I had to go. So I went to see Mitt Romney. He's a beautiful man, striking there in front of the American flag, big giant American flag, strapped up to some metal poles to hold it there. And he said all the things that a good Republican would say, except the part about socialized medicine. I mean, apparently he's going to, he's got some national insurance plan that's going to get everyone health care. It seems to me that the Republicans more and more sound like Democrats. It's like everybody's running to the middle. And the middle, well, it's just less socialism, just lighter socialism. And you know, listening to the man speak, he was inspirational. I wanted to stand up, put my hand over my heart, and praise Jesus. He was great. But I'm not really looking for a guy who can deliver a good speech for president. I'm looking for a principled man who's going to keep the government within the bounds of the Constitution. And the Constitution says nothing about you having the right to health care. If you had the right to health care, then somebody would be obligated to give it to you. If we didn't have enough doctors, we'd have to force people to go to school to be doctors and nurses and doctor's assistants, whatever, physician's assistants. And your rights can't be obligated, it can't be built upon obliging other people to do things. That's not a right. That's just the government passing laws. And the government can pass all kinds of laws, but they should be constitutional, and that one's not. Either way. I also saw Mr. Kucinich. I ran from seeing Mr. Romney. Met a couple of people there that saw the show. Hello. And talked to some good Republicans at the Romney thing, and then I ran to see Dennis Kucinich, who was, appropriately enough, in the Fellowship Hall of the Unitarian Universalist Church, where I go to church. And Mr. Kucinich was saying all the right things that the Democrat in me would want to hear. Now, I'm no Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. I am registered undeclared here in New Hampshire, and I vote for the guy that I think is going to do the best job keeping the government out of my life. I'm really not interested in the government being in my life. I'm not interested in it telling me what to do or how to do it, as long as I don't hurt anybody. And I think that it should do that for everyone. I think that the government's obliged to protect us from enemies, foreign and domestic. That's all. I don't think it's obliged to provide you with health care. I don't think it's obliged to provide you with schooling. I think it's obliged to provide you with police. Sound good. It seems like roads, the Constitution does mention eminent domain, so roads make sense. I suppose the post office, as inefficient and bureaucratic as it is constitutional, but other than that, we should stay out of my life. So anyway, these gentlemen had all their big plans. I thought it was interesting how Dennis Kucinich pointed out that none of the other Democratic candidates besides himself, Dodd, and Gravel really wanted to get out of Iraq, that their plans included keeping a peacekeeping force, a training force in Iraq, and they needed to protect the embassy that we have over there. The largest embassy we've ever built. This thing is an embassy, it's a compound. Now, I want you to think back to Vietnam. Think back. That's what we told our troops there. That's what our nominal mission was in Vietnam, to train and to protect the embassy. That's it. Now, that's what it sounds to me like the Democrats don't have any better plan for Iraq. Most of the Democrats. I'm not talking about Kucinich. Most of the Democrats don't have Clinton, Edwards, and Obama. I guess I should be specific. Those folks don't have any better plan for Iraq than Johnson had for Vietnam. Americans elected Nixon to get us out of Vietnam, and he didn't. It took him forever to do that too. You know, what is it about these politicians that want to string these wars out forever? I don't think we should have gone in the first place, but for God's sakes, we're there 5 years later? It's ridiculous. We won the war against Iraq a long time ago. Now we're just policing them, I guess, occupying the nation, propping up this puppet government that we've put in place. The Iraqi people need to decide what kind of government they want. Now I know they ran around with the little purple fingers, but it's their problem. Either way, as far as these presidential candidates go, I don't see too many of them that are willing to get us out of Iraq. Ron Paul on the Republican side is the only one of the Republicans that's willing to get us out. And the Democrats, not too many of them either. Dennis Kucinich, man of great integrity, he's a pinko. I mean, he's as socialist as they come, but he's a man of integrity. At least he tells you that. He doesn't try to hide it behind rhetoric. I got to say that when I look at the field on the Republican side, I don't know. It doesn't seem like the nation, New Hampshire and the nation voted Democrat, pretty soundly switched Democrat in 2006. Why? Because of this stinking war. Americans are sick to death of this war. Now, the vast majority of people they voted for have nothing to do with this war. For instance, we voted in all these Democrats here in New Hampshire. What do they have to do with a war? Nothing. They're not going to get us out of Iraq. They're state legislators. But, you know, people are kind of simple when it comes to casting their votes. And I don't think that a Republican is going to be able to beat a Democrat unless it's an anti-war Republican. The war's a huge issue right now in the nation, and as is the economy. And I don't think that the only candidate that you're going to see is, an anti-war one. People are going to pick the most anti-war candidate they can get. If they get Republican, say Romney, against Clinton, they're going to pick Clinton. She's more anti-war than Romney is. Not a lot anti-war, but she's more anti-war. And the only way you're going to see us get out is by electing a Republican, unfortunately, that believes that we should end the war. Now, I'm no fan of either party, believe me. I only want the one that's going to do the most to return this nation to a constitutional government. And for me, that's Ron Paul. Take a look at him. You can go to ronpaul2008.com, check it out. Here's a guy that probably agrees to be on the war. Brattleboro man walks for impeachment. Apparently, gentleman from Brattleboro has decided to walk from Vermont to Washington, D.C. to get Bush and Cheney impeached. And along the way, he's going to talk at radio stations and do what he can to tell people that they should impeach Bush and Cheney. Now, I don't want to belittle anyone's efforts, but what's the point in impeaching Bush and Cheney? Make them do jail time? So what? What's it going to do for the nation? Isn't the Secretary of State the third person in line? I mean, is that going to be better, Secretary of State, Condoleezza Rice? I don't think it's going to be any better. Look, you'd have to impeach all of Washington, D.C. to get the crooks out. Every last one of them. Except maybe Ron Paul. Governor to weigh downsizing highway plan. Yeah. The governor's going to decide whether he should downsize the highway plan, whether he should take more money out of his control and give it back to the people. Color me unconvinced. Maybe he's going to have to tighten his belt because, there's not enough money in the budget or something like that, but they'll just raise taxes next year. Governor John Lynch says he hopes a new highway construction plan will help return honesty and fiscal responsibility to New Hampshire's highway planning. The Executive Council signed off Wednesday on a dramatically pared-down proposal after Transportation Commissioner Charles O'Leary cut more than $2 billion in projects. You see how they do this? They build up these huge budgets, they cut them, and then they still got all this fluff underneath. Do we really need all that? You know, I know the government's in charge of taking care of the roads. They've got to be the most inefficient organization around to do it, but they're the only one to do it. And I'm sure they're handing off sweetheart deals here and there when they can. It's sickening, all the money that they spend on these things. These people, it's not their money. It's inefficient because it's just not their money. They don't care. They're just writing checks of your money all the time. They've never seen a spinning plan they haven't liked. Here's a strange one. State trooper charged with threatening to shoot police. A state trooper has been under investigation by state police for his off-duty conduct, is now facing criminal charges and a psychiatric evaluation following an incident at state police headquarters. James Conrad, 49, of Mountain Road, Concord, threatened to shoot a Concord police officer and state police employees Wednesday, according to court records. He also resisted arrest and placed a harassing telephone call to his estranged wife in violation of the terms of their pending divorce agreement. It makes you wonder how many people are in jail right now from the word of this guy. Because you go to jail. When a cop says that you've done something wrong, it may not be open and shut, but it's close. A police officer's word in court is weighed far more heavily than us little people. And you've got some lunatic out there running around threatening to kill people and stalking people, and I don't know. Makes you wonder. Who's watching the Watchers? Should we have the Watchers? Scary stuff. Public to get a view of Keene School addressing code problems could cost $20 million. That's not $20 million spread out the state. That's $20 million from you and me right here in Keene. The public will have a chance to weigh in this week on the future of Keene Middle School and the two different multi-million-dollar proposals to fix the problems there. An architect's study estimated that renovations would cost more than $20 million, and building a new school could cost between $17 and $20 million, not counting the price to furnish and equip that school. That's just the building, $20 million. It has the potential to be the largest construction project in Keene School District history. Oh, isn't that nice? District voters agreed to pay $17.5 million in '99 for a new high school. On Tuesday, tours of the school will take place over 2 hours, followed by the Keene Board of Education presentation about problems in the current school and options for the future. The first thing that bothers me about this is every one of these public meetings that they have is between 6 and 7 p.m. Now, isn't our government supposed to represent us here in Keene? We all voted for them. They're supposed to be our representatives. They're supposed to be watching out for us. They're supposed to be, and allowing us to participate in the process. Well, how come they have every single one of these programs at 6 p.m. to 7 p.m.? Those people that work the second shift or third shift, depending on, how the hours are set up, they're working at that time. I personally work every day from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Saturday. They never have anything on Sunday. So I never get the opportunity to participate in any of their little public forums. Now I know most people just say, I've got things to do. But I'd go. But I can't. Because they schedule each and every one of these things in the times that I can't go. So they'll get the opinion of the public, but they don't want my opinion, apparently, because I work at a certain time. Second thing is the costs for this education that we pay for is about 60 to 65% of our budgets here in Keene. That's true, just all around Cheshire County. I've got to wonder, couldn't this be done more efficiently? How could this be done more efficiently? Are we responsible for paying for this? I was sitting out the other day and watching kids leaving the school there on Washington Street, and they were running amok like good kids do. And they were getting into the cars, their parents. All these cars are shiny and new. They look so nice. And I'm thinking, you know, I drive a little crapmobile. I wonder why it is that I have to pay to send those kids to school when their parents clearly have enough money. They're probably living in houses nicer than mine. They're certainly driving cars nicer than mine. Now, I'm sure I could afford to buy another car, and yes, I'm a cheapskate. I'll admit it. But that's a Yankee value, right? Isn't it a Yankee value to be a cheapskate? That's what I've always been told. So we're not going to be cheapskates when it comes to our education. No. We have to spend all this government money. But the thing is we're allowing the government to spend the money. Now, I'm all for kids having nice places to learn. I'm all for kids having great education. I'm not sure that they're getting great education in these public schools. But, as a matter of fact, I'm certain they're not getting great education in these public schools. But I don't have any problem throwing money at it. I'd be happy to throw money at public schools for my children. I have a child on the way, all of you out there. I have a little boy. My wife is pregnant. She will probably have a child in about 3 months. His name will be Jackson Stewart Edgington. So I'm going to be happy to send little Jack to school. He's going to go to the best school that I can afford to send him to. But what I won't do is I won't send him to a public school. I don't trust the education that they have in public schools. I think that they educate kids to believe that the government is the new messiah, that they can solve all their problems. I believe that the education system is a socialist mind indoctrination center. Okay? Call me crazy, whatever. The other reason I won't send my kid to public school is because you were forced to pay for it. That's right. You were forced to pay for that public school, and the teachers, and their salaries. If you decided, you know, I don't feel like writing my check this biannual or whatever, 6-month period for my taxes. It's just, things have been tight around here, I need the money, I'm not going to write the check. They would put a lien against your house, they being the city government of Keene. And if you still never paid, at some point, they're going to auction your house off to the highest bidder. They're going to take your house away if you decide not to pay for these public schools. Now remember, these are kids running around, getting in their parents' shiny new cars. Families that make more than you and I do, and we have to pay for them. Why is that? Shouldn't the people that have the children have to pay for them? We don't pay for their food. We pay for the food of the poorest of them. That makes perfectly good sense. But why do we have welfare for these upper class people? Now, I'm fine. Let's go ahead and give the bottom 10% of the people in Keene who need education. Let's go ahead and put up a scholarship, pay for it with city funds. It's still force. It's still coercion. You'll still get your house taken away, but it'll cut the amount that we spend on schools greatly. And then the top 90% of earners, those people would have to pay to send their kids to school. Doesn't that seem right? Now, let's remember, all those people would not have to pay for that school in their taxes. That's one of the reasons that most people send their kids to school as it is. They're already paying for it. When Jack gets old enough, I'm going to be paying taxes to send everybody else's kids to school, and I'm going to be paying additional money to send my child to a private school because I believe it's the moral thing to do. Doesn't this plan make sense? Because that's what the concern is. The concern is, what about the poor people? They won't get education. It's important that the poor people get education. Now, in thinking about education, I would tell you that the vast majority of the crap that I learned in school is completely useless to me. I think that it's extraordinarily important that kids learn to read well, to communicate well. Those are very important. I think it's important that they learn how to add, subtract, multiply, divide. Even though we use calculators for those things, you don't always have a calculator. It's important to have a good understanding of math. But I took trigonometry and analytic geometry in high school. I can't tell you when I ever needed to know what the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of a triangle were. And that's all we did in trigonometry. Sines, cosines, and tangents. Geometry, I suppose you need that a little bit in construction, but algebra? When did I ever use a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared? When? Never. Now, I can communicate very well in English, but what do I need to know what a noun, pronoun, participle, gerund, what do I need to know what all these things are for? It seems ludicrous to me, some of the crap that we teach kids in high school. In school in general, but in high school specifically, it seems like it's just full of nonsense. If we could set up just a fund to pay for the people that can't afford to send their kids to school, and then those that can afford to send their kids to school, they had to pay, cut their taxes, I think that we'd have a real good system there. And we wouldn't have to be worried about being forced to pay for the new 20. By the way, they say it's going to be a $20 million school. No, it's not. No, it's not. That school's going to be at least $30 or $40 million by the time they're done, because money's going to have to get tucked away here and there for all these new projects. Believe me, folks, when they say 20 million, start adding. Here's a little opinion piece that says, John Litch says, kindergarten for all takes another unconscionable hit. Now, I think that it's important that kids learn. Now, there's all kinds of different studies out there as to whether the age, the 5 to 6 age is whether kids start learning then or not. Kids go through different learning periods in their lives. Some kids can learn to read very young. Some can't. And it doesn't make them stupid. It just means that they're learning at different rates. I don't like the idea of forcing people to pay to send kids to kindergarten. I do like the idea of sending kids to school for kindergarten, and I will send my child to school for kindergarten. Now, likely that school won't include some kind of rigorous course on trying to teach my child how to do algebra in kindergarten, nor will they have to read the Iliad before they're done. I think that kids in kindergarten should play with clay, learn how to use their hands, learn how to interact with each other, stuff like that. But I don't think that the public should have to be forced to pay for kindergarten for these people. Our children are our most important investment. People are going to pay to send their kids to school, and they're going to pay for kindergarten. All this is state-sponsored daycare for middle-class people. Apparently, New Hampshire is failing on a climate plan. New Hampshire was the worst state in New England for reducing pollution, but its regional peers also deserve criticism, according to an annual study released Wednesday by the New England Climate Coalition. The environmental group and its partners said New Hampshire deserves failing grades for its not developing a timeline to reduce pollution and not adopting clean car standards. Okay. First off, I've revealed on this show before that this is a big lie. It's really just a plan to institute the United Nations as a more powerful government body over the world. Global climate change is a global problem, right? What does a global problem need? It needs a global solution. They'll tell you right there. The United Nations is behind global warming as a problem. Now, there are lots of scientists out there, meteorologists, all kinds of people that disagree with the concept of global climate change. There's evidence for it. There's evidence against it. Now, I'm not saying that global climate change isn't happening. I would guarantee you that change occurs all the time on this planet. That we had the medieval warm period, that we had the Jurassic period, all kinds of climate changes occurred on this planet. And to think that it's not going to occur is to be a Luddite, a person who imagines that things are going to stay the same all the time. And they're not. One thing you can be guaranteed of in this world is change. So likely climate is changing. Now, whether humans have anything to do with that climate changing or not is the second question. We're going to likely get some kind of socialist oversight in this arena. I think that the people most qualified for handling global climate change are individuals who make choices for themselves. Nobody agrees with me. What they in fact believe is that we need oversight. We need government bodies to decide how, what kind of clean cars are out there. What about the people that can't afford a new clean car? What are we going to do about them? Your old beater's kicking out too much pollution. Well, what it does is it raises, when you put these new clean car standards, it raises the cost of new cars. Those car manufacturers have to, meet these standards. It requires more metal, more people to put that metal together, and that requires more expensive vehicles. So what this is it's a tax that hurts poor people. But no, they'll never tell you that, because these same greenies that believe in global climate change, human-caused global climate change, are the same sort of greenies that want to help the poor. But these clean car standards hurt poor people. They were, if I had enough money to buy, say, a new car, but when they put the smart car standards in, there's going to be a certain amount of people that aren't able to purchase a new car as a result. So they're going to have to be in an old car. So their car is not going to have airbags and ABS brakes and all that other stuff. So their children are going to die in wrecks. These greenies want to kill children. That's the truth. It's clear. Now, when you're talking about developing a timeline to reduce pollution, now they'll tell you that these carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide are greenhouse gases, but they're in fact nowhere near the greenhouse gas that methane is. And methane comes from beef. And if you think you're going to stop people from eating beef, well, not just beef, but any kind of meat, you're wrong. My name is Mark Edgington. This was the Keene Weekly News. If you got any questions, give me an email. Thanks.